How's it going, y'all? So today's my 22nd birthday, and I know y'all forgot. I'm not upset. I'm just disappointed, but it's okay. All I'm gonna say is that you need to remember to use code ODO in the Epic Game Store, and we'll be fine. It'll be okay. We'll get through this. I promise. What's up, guys? My name is Doe, and today's video is gonna be on a bunch of axe builds I use in Dauntless, and these are the builds I use on pretty much every behemoth. It's going to be 3 builds, and I might include a 4th. We'll see what happens. But the one thing to understand is that every single build I'll be displaying is going to have a cell called conditioning, and that is because there's a current bug where if you're charging your axe at 0 stamina, it'll just cast if you're doing a light attack or an overhead swing. So you cannot charge it to get extra damage or to generate more determination stacks by getting meter gain for your axe. This is not a fun bug, but to sort of counteract this, I have conditioning on every single build, just because it makes it a lot easier. And even if the bug was gone, unless I'm going for crazy kill times, I would still use conditioning because it makes the axe a bit more nicer to play, I would say. But anyway, the first build we'll talk about is going to be for the Stormclaw axe, and this is being displayed first because it doesn't have any parts from behemoths like Reza or Shroud. Most of my builds have Reza gloves or helmets or some of that nature, but this build is stuff you can get pretty early on and be on your merry way. So the weapon is going to be the Stormclaw axe with the special Grim Onslaught and the mod Volta Axe Core, and I'll be using these specials for pretty much every single axe in this video because they're my preferred specials and mods. So Grim Onslaught can stagger really nicely, it can boop, it does a ton of damage, and it gives you a ton of meter gain. Plus if you catch it, it gives you extra meter gain for catching it on the landing sort of animation. And Volta Axe Core gives you static damage, which is like an AoE when charging your axe. You could use Lightweight Half if you want to, it's a pretty good mod as well, or Overcharged Cylinder. But in my case, I'm not really having long hunts, so I don't really need Overcharged Cylinder. You could, however, use it with this axe because of the special on Stormclaw axe, which is after dodging through an attack, the next weapon attack has 500 to 400% extra meter gain. The reason I'm saying the 500 to 400% is because I'm not sure if it's going to stay this way. It could be a bug because it wasn't mentioned in the patch notes, and if it was and I didn't read it, but it could go back to 500%. We'll see what happens. Anyway, for the gear in this build, I'm going to have a couple Hellion pieces and some Drast stuff. So I'll have a Hellion helmet, the Drast chest piece, the Hellion gloves, and the Riftstalker feet with the Drast Eye Lantern. And also, by the way, I'm using the Drast Eye Lantern in every single build. Most, or not most, but a couple axe players like using Embermane Lantern over Drast Lantern because Embermane Lantern gives you an instant cast which gives you attack speed. And attack speed is an axe player's friend. Well, in my case, I kind of like having the instant cast for damage and the very easy to aim and use and get use out of hold to cast, which is a lightning bolt. Whereas in the Embermane Lantern, it has a hold to cast, which is a fireball that takes time to arm and explode, and sometimes it doesn't actually give you enough damage because it doesn't go off at the right time. So that's sort of my reasoning behind that. But the perks of this build will be +6 Conduit, Molten, Overpower, Rage Hunter, and this is where it's going to get kind of like dumb, is because I'll have a bunch of +3s. I'll have +3 Etheric Attunement, Conditioning, Energized, and Swift. So I don't really want to have 2 Swift cells or 2 Feather Slot cells, but my feat options are not very good. I have choices between Careback feet and maybe even Gnasher feet, but I don't really want those that much. And I could take Koshai feet, which would give me Predator, but I don't like Pred on the axe because Predator does not stay on you. Say you do a resolve hit. Resolve is whenever you charge your axe to a tier 3 swing and you won't get staggered if you land it, or if you do that properly. Well, even if you do that properly, you'll still lose Pred if you get hit during that, which sort of makes that cell kind of lackluster in my opinion, because it makes it so you can't play the axe to its full potential, and you will get penalized if you're using Predator and doing those kind of things. Moving on to our next build, this is more centered upon fighting Umbral Behemoths and Dauntless, such as Riftstalker and Shroud, which are the 2 current Umbral Behemoths, and this is sort of a more higher skill capped build, I would say, because of the cells in the build. But anyway, for the weapon, we're going to have the Valmir's Decree, which is the Valmir Axe. This will give us +3 Aether Hunter, and the special is where once charged, your next attack will deal 550 bonus radiant damage, and the charge rate increases with current health. So don't get hit. Otherwise, this special loses its value in a little bit. Every time you get hit, the more health you lose. Now, the gear in this build is going to be the Reza helmet, the Hellion chest piece, Hellion gloves, and the Careback feet with again the Drast Lantern. And the perks in this build are going to be +6 Aether Hunter, words, +6 Conduit, Molten, Overpower, and Predator, with +3 Etheric Attunement and Conditioning. Now, if you don't want to use Predator in this build, all you have to do is swap out the 2 Technique cells on the Reza helmet and the Hellion chest piece to something else. If you want to use Wild Frenzy, Evasive Fury, Cunning, which I wouldn't suggest, but you could, Adrenaline, use whatever you want to. I went with Predator just because Pred does help out in these fights if you can't get hit, or if you don't get hit, and it's kind of hard to do that, so I do sort of suggest using a different cell like Evasive Fury if you have a tendency to get hit on those fights. Where on Shroud, you'll get hit by the puddles and it'll strip Predator. It's not very fun, it doesn't really feel very good, but it's a risk you take when fighting that boss with Predator. And on that fight, I kind of ran it with like different builds. I ran sometimes with Predator, sometimes without it, and Predator did give me faster kill times in general, which that fight is hard to get a sub 3 on, by the way. Like with the axe, personally, I'd need a really close spawn and to possibly use potions. My fastest hunt so far was a 316 with no potions in a pretty close spawn. I messed up a little bit, but it was still super tough to get it that quick. So sub 3 on Shroud is going to be a tough time for any of you new players, possibly. You might want to use the hammer because the hammer's kind of busted, but anyway, I digress. That's the build for fighting Umbral Behemoths. And moving on, we will have my go-to build when fighting anything that is pretty much not Umbral. Sometimes I use a Stormclaw Axe, but this is my build I want to use for damage most of the time. So I'll have the Riftstalker Axe, which is called Stalker's Mercy, and this gives you +3 Wild Frenzy as a stat. Not really a big fan of that with this kind of build, but you can't change that. Now the special is what makes it good. So dealing damage is a chance based on damage dealt to generate a Shadow Orb that increases damage dealt by 2.5% for 5 seconds. If 5 or more orbs are present, the bonus doubles. Now this special is meant to be hard capped at 8 orbs, which will give you 40% extra damage, which is pretty nice. There is one issue right now that I've seen, and like Pred Help pointed it out to me, and that is that your orb count is sort of weird when you're trying to generate it. It feels like there's like a weird soft cap at 4 orbs on some hits, like 3 to 4 orbs. Some hits will generate just that and nothing more, and before it would generate probably 8 or 6 or 6 or 8. And right now it's generating like 3 or 4, which is not a good thing because it decreases your total damage. I'm not sure that works. Hopefully we'll get like some more information on that. But for the gear in the build, we're going to have the Reza helmet, Koshai chest piece, Koshai gloves, and the Careback feet, with again the Jurassic Lantern. So the perks of this build are going to be +6 Etheric Attunement, Conduit, Evasive Fury, Overpower, Predator, with +3 Conditioning, and +3 Wild Frenzy. I don't really want Wild Frenzy again, but what can you do? Now, this is a pretty, textbook definition of a flawless build, minus the Wild Frenzy. Again, don't really want that. I wish this build had Cunning or anything but Wild Frenzy. Like, honestly, why doesn't the Stalker Axe have Predator or Cunning? Whatever. That's what I want to happen, but I digress. Or actually, no, Evasive Fury would be good too, but again, whatever. So to play this build properly, you have to be dodging a lot, and that can be kind of hard with the axe because the axe requires stamina to charge any of your attacks. When you're charging your attacks, you cannot build stamina because you're always taking stamina to charge your attacks. It's sort of like a weird interaction with that, which is fine. It's the way that it works on the axe is fine, but again, that bug where if you're charging your attacks, like your light attack, and you're doing an overhead swing, you cannot charge it to make it do more damage, which is a bad thing because if you guys don't know, the axe gets meter by holding to charge certain attacks, and this meter contributes to getting more determination stacks. Determination stacks give you more damage. At I think 3 determination stacks you get 50% extra damage. At 4 it's like 70 to 75%. I'm not sure exactly which one, but that's a ton of extra damage, and that is being sort of botched by the fact that you can't really charge it unless you have stamina, which I'm debating on making a Skullforge build for the axe, and I might make one for the sword as well, just for funsies, just to do it. We'll see what happens, but that is sort of like the big old deal with the axe. And the last build I won't really discuss is going to be one for the Hellion weapons, because I make so many builds on Hellion weapons, I don't feel like discussing the build on stream, or not on stream, in this video, and instead I'll just leave a link to it in the description. So if you use the Hellion weapon against a Frost Behemoth, go ham. I might also include one for the Boreas axe in the description as well, so keep a lookout for that. But that is basically the end of this video, guys. If you liked it, leave a like, and if you want to, please share it or leave a comment. It helps out the channel immensely. And let me know what you want to see next. A lot of my recent videos have been made because people make comments like, hey, I want to see a repeater guide video. I want to know how certain cells work. So I made those videos, which the cell video was awful to make. That took me way too long. It was like a 17-minute video, and that wasn't very fun, but I still did it. But hey, if you guys want to check out my Twitch stream where I'm Adal's partner, which kind of matters, not really. I have a flare, it's pretty nice, I like it. If you want it, you can subscribe on Twitch, you know what I'm saying? Tier 1 gets a sub, whatever you want to do, just go ham. But I'm a very interactive streamer on Twitch. I pretty much talk about the game the whole time, other stuff, just random cool stuff. People like my streams, I don't know why. They attend them, they hang out, which is much appreciated, and I can't say thank you enough. And aside from that,